Hi everyone, this is Bradley Cummings. I'm here from Board Game Geek, and I'm here with Ted from Lemonade Game Labs, a new game startup. Can you tell us a little bit about your company?
Sure. We're a Kelowna-based video game development studio, primarily made up of veterans in the industry, about 16 years on average, and each of us over 60 years between the five of us. Originally with games companies such as Microsoft, Electronic Arts, and Disney. So pretty seasoned veterans, grizzled veterans through the years. But we're all, more importantly, pure-hearted gamers for board games. I know myself, I've been playing board games since the mid-'70s. Tabletop, probably strategy-type games since the early '80s. And that goes for pretty much the rest of the gang, although a lot of our younger guys are more into the new designer games that have come out in the last, say, six to 7 years that are starting to really emerge on the market. So yeah, board gamers at heart, finally decided to apply our trade and our skills to putting together really top quality AAA type designer board games.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about your first game that you mentioned to me?
Sure. Trapt is our first game. Trapt is basically a cooperative game, but we do allow it to have a single player mode, so we'll say it's between 1 to 4 players. It's basically a racing type game where you take the role of galactic runners that come across a derelict alien spacecraft, and the whole goal is to roll dice that reveal tiles, and you place the tiles, you reveal the tiles, and you collect relics along the way that allow you the opportunity to exit the craft before it explodes. And it's set in a very fast time frame, about 10 minutes. The idea of that is we love cooperative games, very influenced by games such as Level 7, Space Cadets, Escape, all these ones that we just love together to do, so we thought this would be fantastic translated to a fast game that people could play everywhere. And with the video game medium, twice as entertaining when we can do things like visual tutorials and basically be able to introduce it and break the barriers, plus play it on the go.
Very cool. So this is an original design?
Yeah, well, what we've done is we took our influence on a lot of different games and added our own flavors to it. So, I mean, nowadays a lot of things have influence from what their original designs are. It's not quite as easy as when you're making a physical board game, which a lot of us have done. Those can be completely original in a lot of ways, as well as sometimes inspired by other. These ones inspired us. I'd say this one, the closest ones would be Escape and Level 7. But the reality is we want people to make that connection in any game we make of which ones we originally were inspired by. And the reason for that is we want these games to help actually create better sales back to the original physical properties. So whether we're doing Trapt or some of our future games, which we'll be announcing over the next few months, we will always be naming our influences of these games. But they do have a lot of original aspects. If you played the physical game, you'll recognize some similarities, but you'll see some of the big differences right away. Taking advantage of that digital medium is very important.
Right. Can you go further on that, maybe what you feel like taking advantage of the digital medium means to Lemonade Game Labs?
Absolutely. As big board gamer fans, and obviously having done video games for many years, we just felt that it was really important to find ways to break that barrier for people to get into the designer board games. 9 times out of 10, even the smallest and fastest and catchiest ones, like the co-op games, they tend to come with booklets like 16 pages. So the reality is you get your friends next door that would actually like to play the game, but they just look at it for 5 minutes and say, no way. Same with setting them up. Nothing worse than having to sit and set up a game. I know my days, I love one of my favorite, used to be always Axes and Allies from years and years ago. It'd take 40 minutes to set the darn thing up. So, you know, when you're reducing that barrier of having to teach somebody, like in our game, for instance, you can play the entire tutorial and learn the game in 36 seconds. That's incredibly fast. And from our testing, everybody's been able to understand every aspect in that time. So therefore, you're breaking that barrier. In single player, you get to play the game a few times first to make sure you've run through it a few times. We have co-op modes that you can't have obviously in a physical matter, where you can play by yourself, but you can also have up to 3 people playing along with you as AIs, and they all have distinct personalities. One likes to unreveal rooms, one likes to stalk you a little bit and do anything you want to do, and then the other one likes to get the relics. So, and it's random which ones you get, so that way it gives that feeling of players that are with you. And then of course we'll have multiplayer modes that you can't also have that are global sense. So when you're now playing the game, you're not just playing with 4 people that are close by. You're playing with friends, but you can play random games that are on a global scale. You have leaderboards, you have achievements. These are all things that we can add to it that make the game a little bit more immersive, but at the same time, it's still that great sort of 10-minute fast-paced game experience.
Very cool. And what are the elements from board game design, I guess, that are important? You know, obviously there's digital elements that are extremely important. What kind of board game elements do you want to boil down to make sure
the
that...
core elements of rules that allow, like for me, the most important thing is the core elements in the rules. You can't hide behind bad game design in a physical game. You just can't. And it's one of the things that most of us, like myself, I've designed for many, many years in video games. And I was very, very happy that my ground came in analog games first. One of the first things I ever had to do was design an actual analog game as a project. And you find out very quickly that you can't hide behind fancy graphics or you can't hide behind great art. You really have to make sure that the core element, the core mechanics are the key, and that's what happens with the ones we choose to do. When we approach companies or companies approach us, or if we just find ones that we're real fans of and we want to take it to the next level, we find that those core elements are the key. Core elements like how you move the play, how the players interact with the game, how it paces, how it's balanced between each of the players' abilities depending on what the game is. You just can't beat that in a good analog game. And so therefore that really translates well, and it makes it easy for us to be able to give that experience to everyone else. Because what we do is we take that now and then we make it with the digital side, all of our visual aspects that we can add to it, as well as all the other modes that we can offer you, and you can't do that when someone else is not around to help you play the game.
Very cool. Just to close up, is there a timeline for Trapt?
Yeah, actually we go into Apple submission this week. So it depends, obviously Apple's been backed up a bit, so we'll say, I'd say within 2 weeks you may see it on the iOS, 3 weeks following on PC at latest, and then 3 weeks following that you may see Android, as well as we're hoping to make sure that it's on mobile phones for both sides. We've used it, we've actually code-based everything in our products with Unity to make sure it's completely portable on all platforms. It's also going to be released globally. We do emerging markets just as much as North America.
Very cool. Is it possible to see some of the game in action?
Absolutely.
So maybe we can just move over, yeah.
Sure, I have a late alpha version here right now. In fact, I believe they just fired one to me the other day. Okay, so this is just after the intro video, which most people will have seen anyways in our teaser trailer. You can see that at lemonadelabs.ca or even on Steam right now on a concept page. So once you get past that, you just hit start. Now, when you first arrive, I've already done this because I've demonstrated this earlier today, but it'll actually ask you for your name because you will have a login for your leaderboards and achievements as you play the game. Here's an example, a bit of tutorial I'll just quickly run through. It actually explains the object of the game right away. The idea is to maximize the play space. We have 2 ways of playing this game. It's not just hitting a bunch of dice buttons and then watching everything roll. We call that sort of like a little blitz button. But for a lot of people, we want the look and feel of real dice as well. As board gamers, we felt that was mandatory. So one thing we do is we also have it so you can swipe dice. Now in the tutorial, I'll use the blitz button just to show things quickly. But we actually describe not only what to do, in what order, but also why they're doing it. Once we move there, we have an explanation. Now we have to reveal a room. We can take a room. Now you can do 2 things. You can tap a space or you can drag. We want to feel this as much as customizable as possible. You can zoom in and zoom out. Hang on, we'll just lock that in place. You roll to move. And then you just go here. Oh, I see you gotta move right into the relic room. Now it tells you, yeah, you need to collect these relics. This what happens is at the end of the game, you're gonna be looking to collect so many so you can exit the ship. So they're giving you little hints as to what you can do the whole way. Roll for more relics. Once you've achieved the minimum requirement, there you go, goes right up into the top. Now that's a little bit of how the tutorial works, and it runs through all of the motions. In a single player game, here we go, we'll just come back here. So here's single player. We were saying earlier, single player, there's not just single player. There's single player plus you can play with AI support. You have 3 difficulty levels, easy, normal, and hard. The difficulties are defined by 2 things. One is the amount of relics you may require to collect, but also the amount of rooms that have to be revealed before you get that many relics. So strategy becomes very important in this game. It's kind of funny. It's a very fast racing casual game, but it does have 4 inherent strategies. So where you place them, how fast you reveal them. When you're working with teammates, I can show you an example real quick here of a normal. There we go. Gives you a little name at the top so you know that when you're doing a game, you know who you are. If you're in a multiple player game, you want to be able to know when you're going in. So there you go, just tap into the mode. Now what we can do, we can just roll the die. It says, I've already collected one of the relics required, but I'm going to actually go ahead and place more rooms. It's up to you how you want to play the actual game. The rooms can be rotated. Again, placement's very important. You can also choose to swipe. You can, oh, sorry, forgot to make it. Hang on, my bad. I'm actually doing another action, but there we go. There it is. So as I say, you can keep moving through, you can keep placing rooms, because again, you want to collect 10 at the end, but the way to do this usually is pick one way or the other. It's up to you how you want to do it for your custom way of playing. I know some people, they just blitz right through as much as they can to try, and then the next round they'll try to reveal relics. There's no real science to it, because the reality is the rooms that come up are random, so it's different every time you play it as well. So again, I'm just hitting the blitz ones for the sake of the interview, but you can swipe the dice individually as well. There we go. Yeah, it's a lot. The fun part when you're playing with multiple players, and I'll give you an example of that as well. If you notice, there's 3 rounds. Now, the reason you'll see the timer at the top is there's obviously a level of anxiety. We want to create a sense of excitement with the game. So your oxygen's running out. And between each of the phases of how you want to divide that 10 minutes, you have to get back and you replenish your oxygen. Now, when you get to that phase, you can't skip it. If you're a seasoned player, you're not going to want to sit there and wait for timers to run down. So we do have a skip function. So I'm just going to go ahead and show one with a companion here, just so we get an idea of that. There you go. So in this case, it's just NPC, because this is an alpha. We didn't want to throw generic names in yet, but gives you an idea. Now, this is why I wanted to show this one really quick, too, is if you have a multiple relic room, you can actually select which ones you want to do. In this case, I'll pick 7. And then what that does allows you to have 1, 2, or 3 relics per time that you're in there. And then again, that can get your count down, because as you notice, as you have more people, or if you increase your difficulty, there's more that you need to collect to try to eventually exit the ship. One of the key things too is during the phases between here, you can use digital arrows to make sure you can tell people where you're going. And we are adding chat feature as well. It'll be a global chat one that'll just pop up underneath here. So this will just slide up, so that way you can go left, go right, anything that you need to do. We don't want people to have to rely on like Skype or Ventrilo to play the games if they want to play cooperatively. So that gives you an idea of how it is. And like I say, it'll go through 3 rounds. It's a full 10-minute game when it's complete. And yeah, I mean, people who'll play this, they'll see right away the influences we had. The level 7s, the escapes, the movie, even the cube. Right. You know, these were all things that we used as our inspirations that we were trying to put into it for the elements of suspense as you're going through the game. And again, because everything comes up random, the gameplay's different every time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the whole game. I can go through each of the phases and play a full 10-minute if you'd like one. No problem. I don't know how you'll add it.
That's probably, I think we've got a pretty good understanding of how it's going to work. And
sure. Oh, you can zoom in and out. I can show you that too.
A lot of our users will be able to play it in just a couple weeks, which is pretty awesome.
To be honest, I would hope that they'd pick it up. From our testing, when we did focus testing, most picked it up after the tutorial. Maybe 1 minute in, they figured what they were doing. Figured out how to play the game. They weren't always successful right away. Some actually were gutsy and went in without the tutorial. I'd say about a 2-minute learning curve if they did that, including all the strategies. But applying those strategies does become a challenge because the rooms do come up randomly. So that's the best part of the game. And of course, we're going to come up with different themes, obstacle rooms. There's a lot of stuff we're going to do post first release just to make sure people know that we're supporting the product, as well as, you know, we're actually traditionalists. The idea is we're going to try to keep it minimal as much as possible. How much becomes added feature value. We really want to just charge one price so you get as much of the game as possible when we release. Just a throwback. We know that the curve is going in different ways, but we're traditionalists. We want people to have as much of the experience as possible. So we'll try different themes. We're going to try different little things like trap rooms. We're going to try all these kind of cool obstacles down the road.
Very cool. Well, we look forward to checking it out, and thank you so much. It looks really awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.